From the very first moments of your life, you were conditioned to believe that explaining yourself was a virtue. Parents drilled it into you when they asked, "Why did you do that?" Teachers forced you to justify your answers in school. Friends and authority figures praised you when you could explain your actions clearly, and they scolded you when you could not. Society built an invisible prison where explanations are currency and silence is punished. But here is the raw, brutal truth that few dare to confront. Explanation is weakness. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He observed rulers, generals, and schemers rise and fall, not because of the armies they commanded or the riches they owned, but because of the subtle ways they managed perception. And nothing reveals fragility more than the need to explain yourself. When you explain, you step into a trap. You are no longer the architect of the narrative. You're a character defending your role inside someone else's script. Your enemy sets the frame, and by explaining, you play by their rules. Imagine a king accused of cruelty. If he rushes to say, "No, I am merciful," he has already admitted that the accusation matters. But if he remains silent, or better yet, if he redirects the attention entirely, he keeps his authority intact. The silence itself becomes an answer, one that fuels mystery and commands respect. People may speculate, but speculation is always more powerful than explanation, because imagination magnifies fear, doubt, and awe. Think about your own life. Every time you explained yourself, did you truly win? Or did you simply buy temporary approval at the cost of your dignity? Explanations are like chains. They bind you to the judgment of others. Silence, on the other hand, is a sword. It cuts through expectation and forces others to react to you, not the other way around. This is the first layer of Machiavelli's dark law of power. Never explain yourself, because to explain is to kneel, and power does not kneel. History is a graveyard of rulers who explain too much. Take Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor of Rome. He wrote journals filled with justifications, letters defending his philosophy, reflections on why he acted as he did. Admirable to scholars, yes, but dangerous in politics. His openness revealed the turmoil inside him, and Rome saw a leader human, fallible, conflicted. Contrast this with figures like Louis XIV, the Sun King of France. He rarely explained his decisions. When courtiers whispered or rivals questioned him, he let silence and spectacle speak. "L'état, c'est moi," he declared. "I am the state." No apology, no justification, just absolute identity between himself and power. The difference? Marcus Aurelius is remembered as wise but vulnerable, while Louis XIV is remembered as unchallengeable. Machiavelli warned that when you explain, you reveal the mechanisms behind your power, and once the machinery is visible, it can be dismantled. Leaders who explained died with daggers in their backs, while those who concealed, mystified, and refused to justify commanded fear long after their reign. And this doesn't just apply to kings. Look at modern life. CEOs who explain every scandal look weak, while those who stay silent, pivot the narrative, or let time bury the story, often survive unscathed. Silence doesn't mean absence. Silence means control. People project onto silence whatever they fear or desire. The unanswered question gnaws at the mind, and the person who doesn't explain becomes larger than life. Even in personal relationships, you felt this. The friend who doesn't justify, the partner who doesn't over-explain, the boss who doesn't give reasons for every order. They command attention, respect, sometimes even resentment, but never pity. That is the essence of Machiavelli's dark law. Explanation makes you small. Mystery makes you powerful. When you resist the urge to explain, you weaponize ambiguity. And ambiguity terrifies people more than any truth ever could. So how do you apply Machiavelli's dark law in your life? The first step is discipline. When you're accused, questioned, or pushed into a corner, your instinct will scream, "Explain yourself." You'll feel the fire rise in your chest, the urge to clear your name, to show the truth. Resist it. In that silence lies your power. Instead of explaining, pause. Let the weight of the moment hang in the air. People will expect you to justify, to defend, but when you don't, something shifts. They begin to wonder if you know more than you're saying, if there's a reason too dangerous, too calculated, too strong to reveal. That uncertainty makes you untouchable. Second, learn to redirect. If someone demands an explanation, give them a statement of authority instead. Don't say, "I did this because..." Say, "This is the decision." Or even sharper, "That's not up for discussion." Notice the difference. One bends, the other commands. The third step is selective silence. You don't need to answer every message, every attack, every criticism. When you ignore, you create hierarchy. The one demanding answers is beneath you, chasing clarity you will never give. Finally, cultivate the aura of inevitability. When people believe you never explain because you don't have to, your reputation becomes self-sustaining. They'll say, "That's just who he is." And once you reach that point, your silence speaks louder than any speech could. Remember, in the game of power, people respect strength, not honesty. They admire certainty, not transparency. By refusing to explain, you force the world to adapt to your terms, and that is the coldest, most strategic way to live, not as someone begging to be understood, but as someone impossible to be questioned. The greatest trap in power games is not external, it is internal. It's the fear of being misunderstood. That fear is what drives people to explain, to overtalk, to give away the very strength they fought to build. Machiavelli warned that most men are destroyed not by their enemies, but by their own weakness to reveal too much. Think about it. How many times have you watched someone dig their own grave by trying to defend themselves? A politician caught in scandal speaks for hours, but every word adds fuel to the fire. A leader accused of failure holds a press conference, and the more he explains, the smaller he looks. An ordinary man in an argument keeps saying, "That's not what I meant," until he sounds guilty even if he's not. This is the trap, believing that explanation creates clarity, when in truth, it creates suspicion. The more details you spill, the more threads people can pull. Each word becomes another door for critics to walk through. Silence, however, closes all doors. It forces your enemies to invent stories, but those stories will never land as hard as your own nervous words. There are times, of course, when silence feels dangerous, when everyone demands a response. That's the test. Those who fold and explain lose stature. Those who hold the line become legends. You can see it everywhere, from kings who lost thrones because they tried to justify, to generals who maintained fear simply by refusing to answer. Explanation is submission disguised as honesty. Once you see that, you'll understand why Machiavelli called it a law of power. To break it is to weaken yourself. To obey it is to become untouchable. If you want to live this law, you need weapons sharper than explanations. Words that close the door instead of opening it. Imagine someone confronts you. "Why did you do this?" The weak man replies, "Because I thought it was best, because I had no choice, because you misunderstood me." And with every word he digs his grave. The strategist replies with iron, "It's done." Or he shifts the weight entirely. Focus on what comes next. No justifications, only declarations. Another phrase, when someone insists, "You owe me an explanation," you reply, "I owe you nothing but results." Notice the shift, it kills the demand in its roots. In daily life, silence itself is a weapon. Someone criticizes you online, don't reply. Someone at work tries to corner you with questions. Redirect. That's not the issue on the table. Someone close demands reasons. Narrow your response. That's my decision. Each phrase slices away weakness. And here's the secret. The less you explain, the more people imagine. They will fill the silence with their own fears, their own insecurities, their own respect. And their imagination will always exaggerate your strength. Machiavelli knew this. Fear and respect are born not from words, but from control. Explanations hand over control. Silence seizes it back. Start practicing in small ways. Refuse to explain every text, every choice, every reaction. Train yourself to be comfortable with their discomfort, because in that discomfort, they place you above them. Never explain yourself. Act, declare, command, and let the world bend to the silence you leave behind. Power is not given to those who beg to be understood. It belongs to those who stand above the noise, untouchable, unreachable, unquestionable. Machiavelli's dark law is cruel but liberating. Never explain yourself, because every time you explain, you hand your power to others. You step into their frame, play by their rules, and shrink in their eyes. But when you refuse, when you answer with silence, with authority, with finality, you rise above them. The world respects the man who does not defend, who does not justify, who does not kneel. They may hate him, they may fear him, but they cannot control him. And that is the essence of true power, control that flows from within, not from the approval of others. So the next time you feel the urge to explain, stop. Bite your tongue. Hold your ground. Let your silence speak louder than any excuse ever could. Because once you master this law, you will no longer live as a man who needs to be understood. You will live as a strategist who commands respect without words. And that is the coldest, most dangerous position of all. If you're ready to take these strategies beyond theory, check the pinned comment. The link I left there is the next step to becoming truly untouchable. If you're ready to sharpen your mind with more of Machiavelli's ruthless psychology, subscribe now to the Cold Strategist. Hit the bell so you never miss the next law of power revealed, and leave a comment below. Have you ever lost respect by explaining too much? Or have you seen someone grow untouchable by saying nothing? Share your story, because here, your words feed the strategy.